Imagine standing at the edge of everything you thought defined your life. Your dreams are shattered, your confidence obliterated, and the future, once filled with vibrant possibilities, now appears as a hollow void. You've reached what feels like the end. It is in this moment, this seemingly irreversible fall, that many people give up. They resign themselves to their defeat, convinced that there is no way back. But there is a phenomenon, as old as mythology and as real as human experience, that defies this resignation: the Phoenix theory. It is the idea that the most crushing defeats, the darkest of moments, can serve as the catalyst for profound transformation. When we feel as though we have been utterly destroyed, whether by heartbreak, loss, failure, or depression, it is not the end. Instead, it is the beginning of a process of rebirth. Just like the mythological phoenix that rises anew from its own ashes, we too have the potential to emerge stronger, wiser, and more determined from our own self-destruction. The true measure of life is not found in avoiding hardship, but in how we rise again after falling. This story will explore how embracing defeat, using failure as fuel, and allowing parts of ourselves to die can create the conditions for a new, stronger self to emerge. It's not just about getting up after being knocked down, it's about what you choose to become after hitting the ground. It's about harnessing the energy of adversity to create a better version of yourself, one that wasn't possible before the fall. The nature of the fall. There is a saying in French, "L'importance n'est pas la chute, mais l'atterrissage." The importance isn't the fall, but the landing. To understand the Phoenix theory, it's crucial to grasp the nature of what it means to fall, to hit rock bottom. Falling is a part of life. It's an inevitable experience that every individual will face in one form or another. It may manifest as the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, the death of a loved one, or the internal collapse of one's own mental health. Falling at its core is about losing control. It's that gut-wrenching moment when everything you thought you knew about yourself and your life is suddenly rendered meaningless. Your plans unravel, your sense of purpose disappears, and you're left suspended in a free-fall of confusion and despair. It is not merely a setback, it is a dismantling of your identity. This kind of collapse can be devastating. But here's the paradox. It is also a necessary part of growth. Just as a forest fire clears the way for new saplings to emerge, personal destruction clears the way for reinvention. The ego, the part of us that clings to an old identity, must be shattered for transformation to occur. This is what psychologists call ego death, the profound disintegration of the self that precedes the creation of a new, more authentic identity. To understand this process, consider the myth of the phoenix. In mythology, the phoenix is a bird that, when it senses the end of its life approaching, builds itself a pyre and sets itself ablaze. It burns until it is nothing but ashes. But from these ashes, it is reborn, new, vibrant, and unburdened by its former life. The old self must be entirely consumed for the new self to take flight. This myth captures an essential truth about human nature. Transformation often requires destruction. When everything falls apart, for most people, the moment of complete collapse is terrifying. It's a point where everything that defined your life falls apart, whether that's the end of a relationship, the loss of a career, or a period of overwhelming depression. You are stripped of everything that made you feel secure, and all that remains is raw pain and confusion. But it is precisely in this moment of utter defeat that the seeds of transformation are planted. Consider the story of a man. Let's call him David. For 5 years, David lived in a state of despair. After a series of personal and professional failures, he lost his confidence, became estranged from his family, and slipped into a deep depression. His days were filled with a numbing emptiness, punctuated by bouts of suicidal thoughts. He felt as though he was falling through a dark abyss with no hope of ever finding solid ground again. Then came the final blow, a humiliating public rejection from a project he had invested what little energy he had left in. It was the last straw. Yet paradoxically, it was this very moment of utter collapse that set him on a new path. Having lost everything, he realized he had nothing left to lose. With no identity left to cling to, no expectations to meet, he was free in a way he had never been before. He decided to stop resisting the fall, and instead, embrace it. He accepted that his old self was gone. The man who had failed, who had suffered, was dead. But in those ashes, he saw the faint glimmer of something new. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope, not for restoring what he had lost, but for becoming something entirely different. With sheer willpower, he began to claw his way out of the pit, not by trying to rebuild his old life, but by constructing a new one from scratch. Within a year, David had transformed his life completely. He trained relentlessly, both physically and mentally, and became the head chef at a prestigious restaurant. He traveled, met new people, and embraced challenges he would have once shied away from. People who had known him during his darkest days couldn't believe the change. He was no longer the broken man he had been. He had risen, like a phoenix, from his own ashes. The phoenix moment, embracing the flames. The phoenix moment is the point of realization that occurs during the deepest moments of pain and despair. It is the moment when you realize that everything you've been holding on to is gone, and there is no going back. For some, this moment comes suddenly, like a flash of clarity in the middle of chaos. For others, it is a slow, painful reckoning, the gradual acceptance that the life they knew is over. But this moment of surrender is not about giving up. It's about letting go of the old identity, the old dreams, the old attachments. It's about accepting that the version of yourself that you once clung to must be allowed to die so that something new can be born. This is the essence of the Phoenix theory, the recognition that destruction is not the end, but a necessary precursor to creation. The flames that consume the old self are the flames of intense willpower and determination. Rising from the ashes is not a passive act, it is an active struggle. It requires harnessing all the energy of your pain, your anger, and your despair, and channeling it into something constructive. It means using your suffering as fuel, transforming it into a force that propels you upward. In this process, mindset is everything. The way you interpret your defeat determines what you become. If you see it as an absolute failure, you will remain in the ashes, consumed by bitterness and regret. But if you see it as an opportunity, a chance to start anew, to build a stronger, wiser self, then the fall becomes the foundation for your rebirth. It is this shift in perception, this reorientation of thought that separates those who rise again from those who remain defeated. The process of rebirth. Rising from the ashes is not a single event. It is a gradual, painful process that requires patience, perseverance, and, above all, self-honesty. The first step is to face the wreckage of your life and acknowledge what went wrong. This is not about blaming yourself or others. It is about understanding. Why did the collapse happen? What aspects of your life were built on a shaky foundation? Which parts of your old self must be discarded? This process of self-examination is like sifting through the ashes, searching for the few embers that can be reignited. You may discover that many of the things you thought were essential to your happiness were, in fact, illusions, empty pursuits, toxic relationships, or self-defeating patterns of thought. Letting these things go is painful, but it is necessary. Next comes the most crucial part of the Phoenix theory, setting a new vision for yourself. What do you want to become? What are the core values that will guide your rebirth? This is the stage where you must redefine yourself, not according to what you think others expect of you, but according to your own authentic nature. The key is to identify the strengths that you gain through your suffering. Maybe your pain has made you more resilient, more empathetic, or more determined. These strengths are the raw materials for your new self. Finally, it's time to act. Rebirth is not a passive process, it is forged through action. This is where you begin to build, step by step, brick by brick, the life you want to lead. Each small victory, each moment of progress is a testament to your rising. It won't be easy. There will be setbacks, doubts, and moments of weakness. But if you keep moving forward, using your pain as fuel, the new self will gradually take shape. Mastery of self. One of the greatest lessons of the Phoenix theory is the mastery of self. To rise from the ashes, you must gain control over your own thoughts and emotions. This is not about suppressing negative feelings, it's about transforming them. Anger, sorrow, regret, these are powerful emotions. Left unchecked, they can consume you, dragging you back into the abyss. But if harnessed correctly, they can become the flames that propel you upward. The key is to practice mental discipline. When negative thoughts arise, do not ignore them. Acknowledge them, but do not let them define you. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this emotion? How can I use it to strengthen myself? By reorienting your mind in this way, you transform your inner landscape from a battlefield of conflicting emotions into a forge where new strength is created. This process requires developing emotional resilience, the ability to remain centered even in the face of overwhelming pain. One of the most effective ways to cultivate this resilience is through practices like mindfulness and self-reflection. By regularly examining your inner state, you become more aware of the patterns that keep you trapped in the ashes. You begin to see that many of your limitations are self-imposed, rooted in fear or past trauma. As you gain clarity, you become more adept at breaking free from these patterns and choosing how you respond to life's challenges. The mastery of self also involves redefining your relationship with fear. Fear is often what holds us back from rising again. We fear failure, rejection, and the pain of another fall. But what if instead of avoiding fear, you embraced it? What if, like the phoenix, you welcomed the flames, knowing that they are the crucible through which your new self will be born? This shift in mindset, seeing fear not as a threat, but as an invitation to grow, changes everything. When you no longer fear the fall, you are free to rise as high as you want, aligning with your authentic self. The ultimate goal of the Phoenix theory is not just to rise again, but to rise as a more authentic, more powerful version of yourself. This requires finding your true path, the path that aligns with your deepest values and your unique purpose. Often the life we build before the fall is not truly our own. It is a life shaped by external expectations, societal pressures, and the need for validation. The collapse, painful as it is, provides an opportunity to start anew. To ask yourself, what do I really want? What kind of person do I want to become? What is my unique purpose in this world? Finding your true path means listening to your inner voice, the part of you that has always known what you're meant to do, even if you have ignored it for years. It means rejecting the roles and identities that no longer serve you, and embracing the one that does, even if it is unconventional, even if it terrifies you. When you align with your authentic self, the struggle to rise becomes less about proving yourself to others, and more about becoming the person you were always meant to be. This alignment is what gives you the strength to keep rising, no matter how many times you fall. A continuous cycle of rebirth. The Phoenix theory is not a one-time transformation. It is a way of life. Throughout our existence, we will face multiple falls, each one a new opportunity to destroy what no longer serves us and to create something greater. With each rebirth, we shed an old layer, become more refined, more resilient, and more aligned with our true purpose. This is the essence of the Phoenix theory, the recognition that life is a series of deaths and rebirths. Each time we fall, we are given a choice, to remain in the ashes or to rise anew, stronger than before. When we choose to rise, when we use our defeats as fuel for growth, we honor the indomitable spirit within us, the spirit that refuses to be defeated, that refuses to give up, and that, like the mythical phoenix, will always rise again. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your knowledge and wisdom in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious.